Hey there folks, this is Ryan from ORS Snowshoesdirect.com here in Vermont, here in our warehouse on a Sunday night to show you some snowshoes. These are the snowshoes that we have sort of selected for our beginner category. Beginner snowshoer. Are you a beginner snowshoer? No, you're not. You're at least an intermediate snowshoer, because if you can walk, you are at least an intermediate snowshoer. You know, snowshoeing is a really fun activity. Why do people go snowshoeing versus just going walking? Well, because you can go so much further on snowshoes. You know, you can certainly go out the front door with your boots on, walk down the road. It's a good time. But with snowshoes, you can go places you generally can't go with just boots on. You can go into a meadow that's just been covered in 3 feet of snow. You can go across a frozen bog. You know, you'll be standing in the middle of that bog going, hey, I'm standing in the middle of a frozen bog. This is really cool. You don't do that in the summer, and you don't generally do that with just boots on. You get fresh air. You get exercise. You know, you go with a family. You got guests coming over. You can just go snowshoeing. You know, you don't have to get all your equipment and go to the mountain and ride chairlifts and spend $400 million. No, you invest in some nice snowshoes and some accessories and get out there and just have a really good time. People love snowshoeing. We love snowshoeing. And so, these are, you know, we say beginner, meaning maybe beginning terrain, okay? You're not really in the real deep snow, maybe the steepest mountains. No. You're more in the parks, in the backyard, kind of in rolling terrain, that kind of thing. So these snowshoes aren't going to have a ton of traction. They're not going to have the most supportive bindings because you don't really need that. What you're looking for is an affordable snowshoe that's going to give you some good flotation when the snow gets deep, good traction, and, you know, easy to use and that kind of thing. So let's walk through what we've got here and maybe help you decide what would be a good snowshoe to start out with. By the way, this is Robert Plant hanging out here, kind of adding some color to the otherwise drab setting of this warehouse. Okay, enough about Robert Plant. We'll start off with the Tubbs Xplore. Here's just a very basic snowshoe for, you know, just starting out. The frame is aluminum with some nice soft decking material attached to it. And there you go. So when we're talking about traction in this category, you're not going to see real aggressive crampons, you know. This is going to be fine on a rolling hill, but if you're getting real steep or deep stuff, you know, it's not going to give you the traction you might desire. Again, you're not really going to be in that kind of stuff in this category. Otherwise, you've got a rotating toe cord on this model, meaning when you take a step, the shoe will kind of drop and the snow will shed off the back. The frame itself has what's called a fit step. This is a turned up tail. This is a kind of cool feature on Tubbs models where when you take a step onto a hard packed surface, you know, it kind of rolls the shoe into place a little smoother than if it were just straight. So that's kind of a nice feature there. Otherwise, the binding is pretty basic, nothing fancy here. They call this a quick fit binding. You put your foot in, you've got one loop right here. You pull on that, it'll snug up against your boot. You can actually kind of pull one strap or the other to kind of, you know, adjust for either side, and then you've got a heel strap, little control wings. That's a feature you'll find on all Tubbs models to give your foot, you know, centering and a little more stability. But again, just a recreational use shoe. You can buy the shoe alone, and by the way, this is a women's model and a 21-inch. There are men's models and women's models in varying sizes. So you determine how much weight ultimately you're going to be when you get on those snowshoes. So you think about your boots, you think about your clothes, you think about the pack you might be wearing, add it all up, look at the weight chart, determine the length you need, and that'll give you the best flotation in deep snow. If you're on packed snow, you might be able to, you know, primarily, then you can maybe go more on the smaller side, you know, because you don't need a big shoe for flotation. A smaller shoe is easier to walk in. You can buy the shoe alone, as I mentioned, or you can buy a kit. So in this category, we've got all these kits. And a kit basically is giving you some accessories that you should actually take with you when you go snowshoeing, all in one package. Here we've got the Xplore Kit. This is for women. Comes with some poles, adjustable aluminum poles in there. They're hiding in there. And gaiters. Gaiters are nice, you know, because when you're, you know, and don't make no mistake, folks. Snowshoeing is not like walking on water. You are going to sink a little bit, and snow is going to kind of dance around your feet. So gaiters are really nice to keep snow from, you know, getting the lower part of your legs all wet. And poles are really nice because it incorporates your arms. You get some balance. You're moving your arms. You know, it adds to the whole exercise thing. Plus, it gives you balance. And poles are really nice to have when you're snowshoeing. They really are. And adjustable poles are especially nice because you can adjust them based on the terrain you're on. Okay, now let's move forward. And now we got a different Tubbs model. This is the Flex ESC Kit. Rather than a aluminum frame with decking material attached to it, this is a molded snowshoe. It's plastic, one piece. Lots and lots of traction on there. So this is going to grip really well on steeper hills and icier conditions. But unlike the other model, this is only available in one size. And the idea being, this is really a pack snow shoe. Pack snow snowshoe. So you don't need the extra size for flotation. You're generally on pack snow. The composite material, the plastic, it flexes, it twists, so it'll sort of adjust and conform to the terrain, but the tail flexes a lot. Look at that. And what that will do is when you're taking a step, your heel's going to come down, the shoe is just going to flex, and it's just going to roll that shoe right down. It's really, really soft. It's really, really comfortable. It takes a lot of that shock away from your joints. It's pretty impressive, and it really does a good job. So if you're mainly on packed snow or icy snow most of the time, then consider something like this. Now, this size will certainly work for certain weight ranges. It'll provide enough flotation, but if you're a heavier person, really, and you want to go deep snow, it's not really the shoe to look at. Otherwise, rotating toe cord. I pointed out the traction there, lots of it, and a pretty simple binding. Quick flex binding, it's called. This one works like this. You kind of loosen these straps, open the binding up, slide your foot in, and then you pull on each side, and that'll cinch down on your foot, and then you've got a heel strap as well. Also available in a kit, there it is. Instead of gaiters, they give you a tote bag, which is a nice thing. You can throw your shoes in there so they're not kind of falling apart and separating, and mud or snow's getting all over your car. Poles kind of hang on the outside. There's a better look at that adjustable pole. The baskets are right up here. You would attach those, of course. But you can adjust the pole to the length desired. Good for guests. Because you got Uncle Paul who's 6'2" and Aunt Sue who's 5'1". They can use the same pole. All right. And now we're gonna talk about the Atlas. The model that we put in this category is the 8 Series. This is the 8 Series Elektra, which is a women's shoe. Again, this is available in men's and women's, multiple sizes. This is a women's version. The women's tend to have more of a tapered tail to accommodate women's gaits, so it tends to be a little different than a man's. The bindings can accommodate a smaller boot. Atlas, great snowshoes, moderate amount of traction there. Aluminum frame, nice soft decking material, pretty cool. Binding is, pretty simple binding. Kind of similar to what you might have seen, from the Tubbs version. Basically, put your foot in, pull on this one loop, snugs up around the toe in the front part of your boot, and then you've got your heel strap to tighten that against your heel. Keeps your foot nice and secure. It's very comfortable. Atlas, instead of using a rotating toe cord, and again, rotating like this, it pivots freely. The binding is attached to these bands, and it's called a spring-loaded binding, because the binding can just kind of flex and move and do whatever it needs to do to give your foot a nice, comfortable landing spot, regardless of what the angle of the shoe is at. And it incorporates a little bit of rotation as well, and that prevents the snow from flipping up onto the back of your coat, down your neck, making you cold and wet. So it gives you the benefit of that articulation with the benefit of a rotating toe cord to prevent snow from slipping or flipping. Slides right off the back of the tail just like on a Tubbs. So it's a pretty cool design, absolutely, on this series. The 8 Series Atlas. As far as a kit, they don't make an 8 Series kit. This is the 9 Series. So still a recreational use shoe, a little more traction. The binding's a little bit different, but if you like a kit, you might want to look at the 9 Series. It's not going to be overkill, don't worry about that. But you get a nice tote bag with some adjustable poles. Good deal. Okay, a couple more shoes to show you real quickly. TSL. This is the walk in the park. Very aptly named. Go for a walk in the park with this shoe. But look at that, you got lots of traction there. Stainless steel. I mean, that's pretty aggressive for a recreational shoe. You may not need it all the time, but hey, it'll come in handy if you do. These are actually made in Vermont, which, is very, very cool for us, being Vermonters. They use a fixed toe cord. Now, it looks like it rotates, but it actually doesn't pivot freely. Fixed meaning it's just attached to this band here. But it does, pivot a little bit. Otherwise, the binding is pretty simple. Just a couple of adjustments there. This is just a little Fast Tech type buckle. Clips on there. With a, you adjust the webbing as needed. And then your foot goes in, you tighten that down. This little guy, you can lift that and you can adjust this fore and aft to accommodate 4 different boot sizes, and as well, this heel piece can be adjusted for different places. So you can really get a pretty good fit based on the boot you're wearing on that particular day. TSL, walk in the park. And finally, they got the big old beast. This is the PowdeRidge Crest, and this is a 36-inch. Now available in different sizes. 36 is for someone who really wants optimum flotation and they're pretty heavy. Whether they're heavy, just generally heavy, or maybe carrying a really big pack or a lot of gear. You know, you want, and you're in really, really deep snow, you want a really big snowshoe. But otherwise, you know, all the features will be the same on the smaller models. But aluminum frame, quiet, soft decking material, moderate amount of traction, a rotating tow cord, fully rotating, means it just keeps on going, and, you know, a pretty basic binding. But it works pretty well. And, you know, this shoe is very affordable. You're not gonna break the bank getting out on this shoe. And look at that giant thing. Woo! Yeah! So, you know, think about it again. Where are you going? Well, you're going to be in really, really deep snow all the time. You want a bigger shoe. You're going to generally be on packed snow. You can go with a smaller shoe. And in this category, again, the beginner category, you know, as you saw, moderate traction. Bindings are pretty basic, but they're fine. They're going to hold your foot in place. They just don't have a ton of support for like lateral crazy traverses and that kind of thing. So if this sounds like what you're looking to do, then there they are. Hopefully that's helps you out. Okay, well, thanks for watching, everybody. My name is Ryan from ORS Snowshoes Direct.